Welcome back to the channel. Today I'll be discussing my team selection and transfer plans for double game week 27. First up in goal, it's Kepa Arrizabalaga for Chelsea's away trip to Leicester. I made a big call last week to start Ward over Kepa, and it paid off, with Ward returning 11 points and Kepa returning 6. This week I've got another tough decision, as both keepers are playing against each other. Chelsea are probably the better defence, while Leicester have home advantage. I'm opting for Kepa because on the whole, Chelsea look defensively more solid and have kept 4 clean sheets in their last 7 games. Leicester unbelievably haven't kept a clean sheet since before the World Cup. To kick off the defence, it's Gabriel for his away match against Fulham. Other than his 15-point haul back in double game week 25, Gabriel and the Arsenal defence as a whole have been frustrating to own at times this season in FPL. No doubt Fulham will be a tough opponent to face away from home, and I genuinely feel split on whether to start Gabriel or Badiashile away to Leicester this week. I like the fact that Gabriel is a player who's targeted frequently during set pieces, and Arsenal win a lot of corners and free kicks in and around their opponent's penalty area. Joining Gabriel, it's Tyrone Mings for Aston Villa's away game versus West Ham. I decided to ignore double game week defenders back in game week 25 and instead looked to plan ahead for blank game week 28 by transferring in Mings. In the last 2 weeks, he's scored 7 and 8 points respectively and has 2 good upcoming fixtures in West Ham and Bournemouth, so it looks to be the perfect transfer in so far. There's definitely a discussion to be had over who should start in the back 3 this week, but seeing as Villa are on a good run of form and playing well, I definitely think it's worth including him here. Finally in the back 3, it's Kieran Trippier for his home encounter with Wolves. Since the Premier League returned to action in December, Newcastle have experienced a huge dip in form, while Wolves have picked up some good results, and at this rate, it looks like they might be enough to avoid relegation. Competition for 4th spot in the table still looks very much up for grabs, and Newcastle will be boosted by the fact that Spurs dropped points against Wolves last week. I get a feeling that this might be a match where Trippier starts picking up bonus points again. I'm playing 5 in midfield this week, and to begin with it's Rashford for his home match against Southampton. Nobody predicted that freak 7-0 defeat to Liverpool last week for Man United, and obviously a defeat like that is just a one-off, and United will probably bounce right back to winning ways against the Saints. Although he only had 1 half chance in that game against Liverpool, Rashford has been one of the most informed players in world football in 2023, and I expect him to get straight back on the score sheet against Southampton this weekend. Odegaard joins the midfield for his away fixture against Fulham. Although Odegaard only returned 2 points in the Gunners' 3-2 victory over Bournemouth last week, he recorded 11 shots in that match, which was the most of any player in game week 26. Although they're still in Europe, Arsenal's main focus will be on the Premier League title, and Odegaard will play an absolutely pivotal role in determining whether they can achieve that goal. With the likes of Brentford and Brighton doubling in game week 27, we might have a few benching dilemmas, including Odegaard come the weekend. Next up, I've gone for Bukayo Saka for his away fixture against Fulham. Although Fulham have played well recently, they did concede 3 goals against Brentford at the weekend, and there's no reason why a team like Arsenal couldn't put a few past them this game week. Although the Gunners have scored 59 goals in the Premier League this season, it's often difficult to predict who will bring home the most FPL points. While Saka has returned on a consistent basis this year, he's only scored 2 double-digit hauls for the season so far, so I'll be hoping he can add to that record as soon as possible. What a goal fest it was at Anfield last week. 7 goals for Liverpool and 4 goal contributions for Mohamed Salah, which meant that he ended game week 26 on 21 FPL points. I was originally considering transferring Salah out this week to bring in McAllister, but after that performance last week, there's no way he'll be leaving my team with a fixture against Bournemouth. Liverpool have been playing much better lately, and obviously the performance against Man United reflected that. But it will be interesting to see how well they're able to break teams down that sit deep, like Bournemouth. One of the standout captain options this week has to be Mitoma for his double game week versus Leeds and Crystal Palace. Mitoma has set the Premier League alight since he started to get regular minutes in the Brighton team in 2023, being part of one of the most prolific attacking sides in the division. He's now returned 5 goals and 2 assists since game week 17, and these look to be 2 very appetising fixtures on paper. It'll be an interesting week for captaincy in FPL, as Brighton, Brentford and all the top 5 clubs in the Premier League have favourable fixtures. First up front is Ollie Watkins for Aston Villa's away game against West Ham. Watkins' blank last week against Crystal Palace was the first time he failed to return in a Premier League match since game week 20. West Ham are a team in a precarious position at the moment, and with the way Villa are playing, I'd hope Watkins can get something from this game. I'm going to have to make a decision this week whether to bench or start him, as there are other players I'm eyeing up for game week 27. Especially from the likes of Brentford and Brighton, who both have 2 fixtures. Finally, to make the 11 is Erling Haaland away to Crystal Palace. Palace have struggled to pick up any sort of momentum since game week 17, and it looks like they'll end the 22-23 season in the bottom half of the table. On the other hand, Man City have been on good form, gaining 13 of a possible 15 points in their last 5 matches, and scoring 13 goals in that time. Although Haaland's goal scoring has dried up a considerable amount compared to his first half of the season, it only takes a single match for him to punish fantasy managers who decide on going without him. So making the bench this week is Ward, Badiashile, Mitrovic and Patterson. When it comes to transfer plans for game week 27, I've got 2 free transfers, and my original plan was to transfer out Salah and Mitrovic and bring in McAllister and Kane. However, with Salah's impressive performance last week, it seems crazy to remove him ahead of a trip to Bournemouth. The move I'm now leaning towards is to transfer out Arrizabalaga and Mitrovic and bring in either Steele or Forster in goal and Toney up front. Steele has 2 fixtures this week, but Forster would be the sensible move to cover myself for game week 28. Selling Kepa gives me the funds to upgrade Mitrovic to Toney. These would be short-term moves, as I'm probably set on activating the wildcard in game week 29 or just afterwards. When it comes to benching headaches, my first thought would be to play Toney over Watkins and then bring Watkins back into the starting 11 for game week 28. I'm torn on captaincy this week, but the likelihood is that I give it to one of the players with a double game week. Whether that's Toney or Mitoma, I'll have to wait till closer to the deadline to make a decision. I'll likely go for Mitoma, because I like the way he plays and I can see Brighton scoring a ton of goals this game week. So that concludes the game week 27 team selection. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I wish you all the best of luck for the upcoming weekend.